Let me go ahead and get us.
This got to be a video.
Hey, cousin Fred, let me get my liquor ready. It's gonna be a long night. I got a lot to say about this. Y'all got me round up.
Hey man, this is the coach.
And I'm the Beacon. And this is the Point Blank Perspectives Podcast.
Beacon.
What's going on, Coach?
Listen, man. Today, we have a special guest. And you know, we said for the first couple of a little bit, we're going to just us talking. That's why we haven't did video. But today, we got a special guest with us today.
I know we are in for a treat.
Yes, we are. Woo! And she doesn't have no filters. I'll tell you what.
Like I do a lot of editing.
Right. So without further ado, everybody, you hear me talk about my wife, Angie. You hear me constantly if you have been listening. And today she's going to join us.
She is here to defend herself.
She is here to join us.
Wow.
She's here to join us. And we usually at where we usually like to tape at. But today, we're actually in the house. In my house. We're sitting there. We're going to sit here. And we don't have a podcast. We have a conversation. And...
Yeah, whatever. But thank you, Coach. Thank you, Beacon, for having me.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Our first guest at that.
Yes. It will not be the last.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's dig deep.
Okay, so
yeah, what we talking about today, Coach?
You know what? I seen something on social media. It was about death.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna say it was crazy, but you might have seen it where they had these little pranks or whatever, where there's two people and one of the guys say he's grieving over his ex, but the way he does it. Mm-hmm. And the person like, what the hell? So let's talk about just death in general.
Okay.
It don't have to be the ex. We can get into that later on. Mm-hmm. But just death.
Okay. All right. That's a good topic.
Well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
How did he react that was disturbing to you?
No. It wasn't. He sat there and was, oh my God, my ex, we got to go past the house. We got to do all this. And his girlfriend or whoever, wife, whatever, and she was like, excuse me? She the one, I wouldn't do a prank like that.
Got it.
That just wouldn't be me. No. You know.
Understood.
Mm-hmm. So how do we feel about when someone does die?
I mean, death in general sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people very close to me die, especially when I was younger. I had a lot of people that I was really close to die, and most of them, well, some of them was unexpected, some of them were expected, but either way, it just sucks. Like, it's a terrible thing to experience. So I guess I'll start there. I don't know who else wants to.
Yeah, I'll go and I'll dive deep into it, because many of you know or may not know that my husband and I, we lost our son, his Fred's bonus son, Michael. He died in his sleep on Christmas Eve of 2023. And when we learned about the death, I was in church. The thing about it is he's been sick all his life. So it was a shock because this time he wasn't in the hospital when he passed away. He passed away in his home. The blessing out of it is for me, and people look at me strange, is that God blessed me with 28 years with his life. Because again, he's been sick all of his life. 2 weeks prior to his death, he released his book. So basically, he did his own eulogy and his own obituary. So he already wrote about his life. So I think at that time, his time was up and God called him home because he felt as though that he needed to bless others, up in heaven. Do I miss my son? I do. I miss him every day. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. You just have to learn how to process it and navigate it and pivot when you have to. Because one thing is for sure is that everybody's going to die. That's the one thing that is outside of taxes. Everybody is guaranteed to die. Everybody's not guaranteed to live. Even when a baby is first born, you're not guaranteed to live. So you just have to learn how to navigate and pivot from it. And it's a lot of praying. I had to do a lot of praying, but I also got in front of it where I went to counselors and things like that. So it's very difficult, but you just have to learn. You have to want to learn how to navigate through it. So that's how I've been dealing with death. It's been 18 months going on, so it's an everyday ongoing process.
So let me tell you one thing I hate.
What do you hate?
This is what I hate. I'm not a big fan when someone says, you know what, so-and-so is looking down on you. No, they're not. They're not looking down on you. It's too, and it really pisses me off when someone say, I believe in God. And then you say that statement right behind that. Because if you believe in God, you only know it's two places, either in heaven or in hell. Mm-hmm. And if you're in hell, you're not looking at nothing. Okay, let's get that straight.
Yeah, you're burning.
Right. And if you're in heaven, you're not looking down. You sitting there praising God. Mm-hmm. So when someone says that, I personally think that's a guilt. Or I don't know what it is, but all that, so-and-so was looking down on me. No, they're not.
But it could also be that that's how they were taught. And they don't know, and they could know God, but if that's how they were taught, that's
right.
Learned behavior.
Okay, so
you can't, wait a minute, you can't discount how somebody may or may not feel.
Okay.
Because you got to be careful if somebody's grieving somebody or they're going, maybe, and it may have been 10 years ago, and they're going through that quick grief, and you say that, sometimes you got to be careful when you say that.
Okay. So everybody that's listening to me, the coach is telling you to stop it. Just stop it.
That's his personal opinion and experience.
That's his perspective.
That's his perspective, and that is
Just
fine.
stop it.
But I'm going to take him out of that perspective and look at somebody else's lens.
Okay, yeah, that was
Just saying.
Because the thing is, like, so for example, like if somebody says that to you, maybe that's just their way of trying to comfort you. Because I mean, what really can you say to somebody that just lost somebody? So
Right.
maybe in a way they're trying to get you to understand, like, that person is still there with you. That person's still watching over you. Because it's the loss that people
Right. Okay.
sometimes spiral out of control with.
Okay.
So sometimes just by having that feeling that that person is still watching you, it helps you to kind of navigate your life a little bit better.
Oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a form of comfort, and that's something that I did learn when I took my grief and loss class. Is that sometimes people don't know what to say. Sometimes it's best not to say anything because, and you can even say, "I'm praying for you," and that person's going to be offended because it depends on how they feel today. Because sometimes you don't want nobody to pray for you. Mm-hmm. You could be angry at God, even if you knew that person was sick and in the ICU on the machines. Because we're humans and we're selfish, we still don't want that person to go. Or it could be is that we knew we didn't do right by the person when they were living.
Right.
And now it's, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So now it's that guilt.
Now you trying to crawl in the casket.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Trying to jump in the, jump in the casket, jump in the ground, whatever you want to call it, so.
Coach, what you got for us?
Ooh, that's good.
My stage just got you fired up.
Yeah.
I went to a funeral, and I'm not going to put who the people were.
Do that. Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I was younger, and I went to a funeral, and people was crying and all that, and we get to the burial site. I always when a person's going in the ground, I always turn my back.
Okay.
Because I don't want to remember the person like that.
Okay.
I always turn my back and I don't even see that.
Right.
But I was young. And at that time, I didn't practice that technique of turning my back.
Right.
Okay? That's my disclaimer.
Right.
Okay.
I sat there and a certain person started, you crying. Oh, I get it. But then they started walking over towards the casket. And it was, why, dear God, why is this person leaving? Take me instead.
Okay.
I was like, what? So I tapped my mom. Yo, what they mean? My mom said, not right now. Okay, and then they proceeded. It got so bad where people had to hold that person.
Like restrain them from.
Restrain them because they wanted to get in the casket with the body.
6 feet under, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy.
They was trying, and I'm saying to myself, I don't never want to go to a funeral because this was crazy to me. To me, it was crazy. But yeah,
But then again, that's where overcome from loss comes in that, because again, it could have been guilt. It could have been they didn't do right when that person was living.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are so grief stricken, they actually do want to go with that person, which is why you see how. Remember when we had that couple at our wedding, and they were married for 61 years.
Okay.
Remember that?
Right.
And he passed away first. She passed away right after him, maybe like a week or two later, because you can actually experience being heartbroken. It's actually a disorder. And sometimes people, it can actually happen.
So let me say this to you. If you pass,
I already told you, if I pass, you better get another wife, because you can't take care of it by yourself. I said that.
no, I'm not getting married again.
But men can't be alone. That's just facts. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
That's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation. But so also when we talk about death, and Angie, man, you talked about be cremated.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. I because we did that. We did that with Michael, and I'm glad I did that, because I did not want to see him in that state. I wanted to, and I said that to you. I wanted to remember him when I took him out to celebrate his book 2 weeks of his passing.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to see the grayness to this, the artificial of him.
Right.
And you did. You went back there and you saw him before they. And when you told me, and I said,
tough.
and you said, right, you said it was tough, and I didn't want that in my head.
Right.
To this day, I remember we went out to the seafood place. That's what I remember. That was our son. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I believe in the cremation. Some people don't. I don't believe in putting like $25,000, $30,000 in the ground, knowing darn well you're not going back. Some people go back and then, they take care of the grounds and things like that. But the reality is, the majority of people, they don't go back to them cemeteries. They don't. So you didn't put all that. I'm sorry, cousin. You put all that money in the ground, and even if but if that's their burial insurance, then that's what you do with it. But if you got an insurance policy, and especially if you know your parent or significant or whatever the case may be, don't put all that money in the ground, especially if you got a house or something like that. Your significant other and or parent wants you to take care of your house. Because same thing, when my dad passed away, he didn't want us to put all that money in the ground.
Right.
He was like, yeah, no, don't do that. Take care of you like he has always done.
Well, what did I ask you to do for me once you cremate me?
Oh Lord.
Well, take some of the ashes,
Yes.
put it in a cigar,
Yes.
and smoke it, because that's going to be your last blowjob.
Yes, it did. You got it, baby. That'll be the last one. God darn
So
it.
now you done heard it.
That'll be the last one.
You done heard it from the coach and the coach's wife.
I won't get no more after that.
I swear. I don't know how good of an idea this was. Hopefully there won't be any more sharing going on.
Well, you invited me.
Right.
I mean, listen, I'm happy you here. Don't get it twisted. But I just want to jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
because,
Go ahead.
When you did the ceremony for Mike, until you did that, I had seen cremations before, but it was almost like the cremation was still like done as a funeral. So instead of it being a casket up front, it was a urn up front, and the ceremony still.
I didn't have an urn.
No.
Right,
I'm
you
saying,
can't. Right.
No, I'm saying until you did what you did.
Right.
I'm saying the only other funeral or memorial that I went to that involves cremation was done exactly like a funeral.
Correct.
And I'm saying the one that you did wasn't like that.
Correct.
And it changed my perspective on cremation because
It was a celebration.
it was a celebration. And
Right.
I really enjoyed, Michael's memorial because it was so many people in that room.
Yes, it was.
Like when I tell you, it was so, like when I came there, I knew Mike was a cool dude, and I knew he had new people because from pictures in school and social media accounts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I got in there, I couldn't believe it wasn't even enough seats.
It wasn't. Well, that's because he went to Central, class 273. Once they found out, they showed up and showed out.
Right.
Remember, it was an ice storm that day.
Right.
And it was like, 15 degrees outside?
It was cold.
They showed up to the point, they were outside the
Right.
place.
And, and not to cut y'all off, it was even a lot of cops there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So the reason, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
No, I was going to say the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think, a lot of people, when they think of death, they think of, all of this elaborate, getting the biggest casket, and nowadays you got the people that sit them up while they dead, and you know what I'm saying? Like
Sit on
sitting them up outside
motorcycle.
all kinds of crazy stuff. But it was just nice to go to
refreshing.
something. It was refreshing to be processing that loss but to also see how much love and the impact that he had.
Yes.
Right.
Because we normally wouldn't have got that.
Right.
But that whole memorial was just focused only on that.
Right.
Correct.
So it was like we were remembering him, we were mourning him, but at the same time, we were hearing stories that we normally wouldn't have heard.
Right.
Right.
And we're seeing people that we wouldn't have seen. So
Right.
it gave me a sense of peace about it once I left the place, because it was like, wow, like even though he's gone, look at the impact that this dude made in such a short time. Because
Right.
Mike was only
He had just turned 28.
just turned 28. Had just put out his book like 2 weeks
Prior.
before, or a week before. Was it the day before? A week before
It
Christmas
was
or something?
no, his book came out actually on his birthday, December 12th. So it was 2 weeks
Okay.
prior to his. It was exactly 12 days before his death.
Yeah, because I remember him posting the book, and I was so proud of him because he reached out to me on social media.
And you pinned it too.
Yeah, and I pinned it on my nonprofit page.
Yeah.
And then when the call came on Christmas, it was just like, huh?
Yeah.
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 Like, huh? Like, no, that ain't right.
Yeah.
And then I think I had even just was texting y'all like moments before another text came out saying that, you had lost your son. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm like, I just talked to them. And we was laughing and joking and everything in the text.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, that happened. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, just getting back to the main point. The point that I'm trying to make is that, you don't have to your point, put all of that money in the ground.
Right.
So that's what I did.
That's just my perspective on it.
I mean, like we say, people grieve in certain ways, and if that brings closure to that person, I say go for it. I don't knock you.
You
for
saying
doing
put them in the ground?
If you put it in the ground, you want to celebrate that person any way you want to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And that's bringing closure to this situation
Right.
that you're dealing with. Go ahead, Britt. Go ahead, rock yourself out. What I don't like is you want to bury the person. You don't have insurance. You don't have enough money.
That part.
And the first thing you say is, "I'm going to fish fry."
Oh no.
Raise money.
They do GoFundMe pages now. That's what they do. They do GoFundMe. Then if that's the case, then you need to cremate the person.
But you know what though? To that point, I think a lot of people, because you got to remember, there's been a lot of deaths where the people are young, and so I think a lot of times in our community, we don't think ahead about wills and funerals and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times when the person dies, they probably don't have life insurance.
Well,
And so
because
it's like a sporadic thing.
people think we're not supposed to bury our children.
Right.
That's
Right.
what it is. But
Right.
in essence, you need, as soon as Deuce was born, I got him an insurance policy because death is guaranteed. We don't know when we're going to go. And I
Right.
think our people are not educated enough, and they should be.
Right.
Right.
Because it can happen. We're so used to thinking, we're supposed to bury our parents or our loved
Right.
one or
We
the
gonna
loved
live
ones.
forever.
We're going to live forever. Right, exactly. And not thinking that our children can, like you said, you see now these 15, 16 they're dropping like flies
Right.
with death, and it's a terrible loss.
Right.
But again, we still got to be responsible. And even if you have a $5,000 insurance policy, at least that'll cover whether it's the burial, cremation, or whatever you want to do with with your loved one. But I'm tired of seeing GoFundMe pages. I just am. I am.
I don't even see them. I don't see. I just see people doing French fries.
I just hope that people start to get ahead of it, because I can't say that I'm tired of seeing them, but I just hope that people start to be more proactive about setting up the plans of if something should go wrong,
Right.
or if somebody should lose their life, because that's why you're seeing them, because you're not planning on burying that person,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it's like, oh snap, like how much a funeral costs, and now that's the first thing a hustler gonna think of, like, all right, let me try to get this money up.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is that a policy is maybe like $20 a month. It's not really a whole lot of money. Okay, start bringing your coffee to work or bring your lunch to work. But at least if something like that happened, you're never prepared. Even if you're prepared, at least that's covered.
Right.
Right.
And we just need to do better.
And just one more point before we move off of it,
go ahead.
because I don't want to go down like the financial road, but what I learned was that if you get, the earlier you get life insurance, the cheaper it is.
Correct. That is correct. The
And
older
that's-
you are, the higher it is.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because for me, when I had my cancer, they wouldn't even give me life insurance. Like
wow.
I was trying for like 8 years to get life insurance after I had cancer, and they would not give it to
it was
me.
a liability.
Yeah, they would not give it to me, and then I was finally able to get some. But it took years for me to get it. But it's much more expensive now for me than it would have been had I been able to get it years ago.
Correct.
So that's another thing that I just want to put out there to the audience. If you haven't done it already, is if you don't have life insurance, get it now. And if your kids don't have life insurance, tell them to just get a policy and
Yep.
start now.
Yep.
So how would someone overcome the loss?
Man, there's so many different ways that people do that.
You never overcome the loss. You never is how you navigate through it, because grief can hit you. Grief has hit me when I'm taking out the trash. I can't explain why. You never overcome the loss. You just have to know how to pivot from it,
Right.
and how to manage it, because you manage it for the rest of your life.
Well, wait a minute. What you mean when you say you took out the trash?
One time I was taking out the trash out the bathroom, and I started crying
The
for
little
life.
trash. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
I'm
not
sorry.
the big. No,
Okay.
but I'm just saying it could be the simplest thing that had nothing to do with Michael. It was simple as that, and it just
Oh, okay.
So you never overcome the loss.
Yeah.
You just have to learn how to manage it. Seriously, you really
Yeah.
do.
'Cause we all have lost someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think because when my father died, it was we did a memorial service for him. So it was cool.
How did you get through it?
Work. And I think for me, for those 16 years I was on vacation, I seen a lot of death. So for me, it was immune.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
even though that was who he was, part of me was like, and then the other part of me was like, all right, we seen this,
Yeah.
and that's the way I got through it. Do I remember? Yeah. Like you said, you remember,
Right.
but it's just like, all right, I got to keep on. And then I would think to myself, dang, how would he, if he was here or this situation come up, how would he act? No, I ain't know what he would do. I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it. I ain't know what he did. I'm going to do the way I do it.
Exactly.
But how about you when you lost someone?
Yeah, so I think for me, the two deaths that I remember the most are my grandmother, my father's mother, and my cousin. And in both of those deaths, the reason why I remember them a lot is because when they died, and we're talking about how did I get over them, when they died, I didn't have time to even process that they died. So like when my grandma died, I was the only person that lived in the city. So when the cops found her, they called me. I had to go over there, see the body, identify the body. Then I had to call all our family, let them know what was going on. And, just had to start organizing, like getting her body out of there. The funeral stuff, like finding out where her will was. Like I had to do all of this stuff, like
All the business.
initially. So I didn't even get a chance to grieve that one at all. And then when my cousin died years later, she had two daughters. And so immediately when I found out that she died, I couldn't even process that one because my first thought was, oh my God, my two little cousins just lost their mom. And like immediately I just jumped into like big cousin mode and was just trying to make sure they was good and being there for them and stuff like that. So I don't even think I cried about my cousin dying until like 2 years later. And it was like around her birthday. It just hit me.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I remember I was in my apartment. I just woke up feeling sad. And then all of a sudden, it just like
It hits you. It comes like a tsunami. You don't see it. You don't see it coming.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do not see it coming, but you learn how to navigate through it.
Yeah, because even my grandmother, like even sometimes now, I don't get depressed or anything, but sometimes I get a little sad thinking about like how far I've come since she died. Because she saw me when I was like I ain't had nothing figured out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so to see where I've been able to get to, sometimes I'd be like, damn, I wish she was still here to like kind of see where I'm at and enjoy some of the fruits of the labor and all that. So
And piggybacking off of you, Beacon, I think for me when my father died, I'll be the only thing like you. He hasn't got to see Freddie as he's grown up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, dang, because he has your whole name.
Right.
And you haven't got to see you seen him one time when he was a baby, went out to Vegas, and now he's grown up, and you probably be like, wow, look how big it. So yeah, that's one of like, wow.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something. So you're not married.
I'm not married.
So I had a couple exes.
Oh, excuse us.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah, I had a couple exes.
Well, we already established that the coach was a player before he became the coach.
So I had a couple.
And there was always light skinned to dig.
Oh Lord.
So
I was
listen,
his first chocolate drop.
listen, I had a couple of exes, and I don't know. So the skit was the dude was playing a prank on his wife. I mean, yeah, let's say his wife, and she's in the car first. They get ready to go somewhere, And he gets in the car. Oh my God! And she like, what is the matter? He was like, you know, so my ex. And she was like, yeah. She died. We gotta go to the house. I gotta comfort her mother. and his wife looked at him like, what? I don't care about it. And then he started laughing. That was the break. So I'm not doing that because I understand who I'm married to.
Because you ain't trying to die.
I understand. And like I've always done once, I mean, I would, if I found out, I would feel, like that.
You feel what?
You feel what?
I would feel sad that the person passed away.
Okay.
Because I knew him.
Right,
But I'm not going to go, oh my God, I can't believe it. No, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not doing all that. No, I wouldn't do that.
Now,
But-
see, it's funny because when you mentioned social media, I saw a skit about that same thing, but they did it like it was like I'm assuming it was a skit anyway, but they were making it seem as though it was real. So what happened in this situation was the guy was sitting on the chair. He was sitting like in a rocking chair or whatever. His girl or wife or whoever, she walks in and he's sitting there looking sad as I don't know what. Like he looking sad. So she walk in, she like, hey baby. He like, hey, what's going on? Like little monotone joke. So then she like, well, what's wrong with you? And then he talk about, well, yeah, such and such. And she was like, who, your ex? And he was like, yeah, she passed away. And the lady was like, all right, so what?
That part.
And she was like, what you sitting there looking all sad for?
Exactly.
You can go with him. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that was a skit or not, but that one was hilarious.
So what would you do if your ex passed away, Angie?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What you want me to say?
Listen, would you be sad?
Not really. Would I be sad for my son? Yes.
Okay.
Because he has a relationship with his father.
Right.
Would I be, oh my God! Ah! Nigga, no. No. On top of that, you gonna be like, for real, Edge. Sweets, for real?
Yeah, I probably
We gonna be doing that? Yeah, no.
I'm gonna be true with you.
Because you gotta realize, I've come a long way from not liking him.
Right. I think
So,
if
you really think I'm gonna be,
But
yeah, no.
for me, I believe that if you was to share a tear,
No.
hold on.
No.
Okay, listen.
Not happening.
Okay,
Carry on.
Okay, if you was to share a tear,
Not happening.
Yeah, I'm done.
I could understand because y'all share something.
I don't give a damn.
Okay, all right, my bad.
No. Mm-mm. Sorry. Nah.
Yeah.
I would feel.
Sorry, coach. Nope. Mm-mm.
God.
Not happening.
Okay.
Next.
So my question. so now my question.
Man, put me through hell. You kidding me?
Okay, so my question is not just with that situation, but if someone you know and he passed away, how long?
Well, hold up. Before you go to that, you got to answer it on the flip side.
What?
Because would you grieve your ex?
What you mean grieve?
The same question you asked her.
Grief.
Which you talking about like crying and all that?
Yeah, would you fall out?
No.
Like, could you see yourself being emotional or feeling some type of way about an ex passing?
No.
All right, listen, you ain't got to stone face me, brother. I'm just asking the question.
He trying to look at a little poker face out. He like,
He looking at me all like,
no.
No, it would just be like, damn. You know what I mean? That's about it.
because I ain't gonna lie, I've never been in that. Actually, no, wait. I think I was in that situation. I think I was in that situation. I think this is a long time ago.
Go ahead.
A long time ago. A girl who I was dating, her ex got murdered.
Oh, Lord.
And I remember kind of being in my head, kind of like, I don't know how to feel about how you feel right now. Because you, on one hand, you try to be like, all right, I want to be respectful to the fact that you just lost somebody who, mattered in your life at some point. But I'm also your man right now. So it was like a weird space to be in. So when it happened, I wasn't with her when she got the news. But it happened while we were together. So it was just like a weird space. And I knew the guy, like he was cool. Like he was real cool. And by the point that it happened, like I knew of him. He was, cool and all that. but it was a weird space to be in.
Right.
But she didn't take it too far. Like, it wasn't like, all right, now.
I was about to ask you that.
We 2 months down the line.
Yeah, well,
I was about to ask
It
you.
wasn't like that.
Right.
It was like I would say probably like 2 days maybe.
Oh, but that's fine, because that's but honestly, that's shock.
Right.
And
Right.
shock sometimes can take at least a week. You get
Right.
somebody at least like a week, like
Right.
5 days or something like that.
Right.
Right.
You know, yeah, don't be a butt. I'm glad
Yeah,
you wasn't
yeah.
a butt about it.
No, no.
But you still gonna look outside of like, for real? Like,
I kept it internal.
I get it.
What I was thinking was
Right.
internal. I never said anything.
right.
But because I understood the situation.
I'll give a. So if that was, let's say Angie.
It ain't gonna be Angie.
Okay, say it was her.
It's not me.
I would get a person 3-day grace period.
Okay.
3 day. Go ahead, because even if you did have bad times, you still had good times.
Right.
Because it wasn't all bad because something was produced from that.
Right.
So I'm going to show you my empathy and my compassion. Fine. After the 3rd day, let's get together.
You only get 1 day, bro. You ain't getting no 3-day grace period.
All right. So here's the next level to the question.
But
You giving them a 3-day grace period. Is your spouse allowed to go to the funeral?
yes.
Because you're paying.
There's one thing that's grieving. There's another thing to go to the funeral.
Yes.
If you had a relationship with that person, it's out of respect. You're paying respect to the dead. That's really what you're doing. You got to take yourself out of that. And just how recently somebody we knew, we're no longer friends, their mother passed. I'm taking myself out of that equation
Right.
and going to pay respects.
Right.
Now, if you all in there busting it up and you speaking in this, you sitting next to your ex and blah, 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 no, you crossed the line.
Trying to sit with the family and all that.
Like, no. You sit on the friend side, not the family side. No, but seriously, you need
Nah.
to take yourself out of it.
I disagree.
What you mean?
I disagree.
All right, so go ahead.
If you sat there and let's say for Angie,
Keep putting
and,
it in.
okay, let's say the guy and the girl and the female ex passed away, and she wants to sit with the family. I don't have a problem with that, because especially if you had a good relationship with the mother, with his mother, and you want to sit there and condone.
If you sit with the family, that's fine, but not sit with your ex. No, absolutely not.
No, your ex is dead.
Yeah,
Oh, the ex is dead. Okay, got it,
You said
got it,
the
got
ex is
it.
family.
Oh, that's his family.
If
Okay,
you sit
got
with
it.
the ex,
Right,
we-
you
you
done-
Right.
Right, y'all died together.
Correct.
Right.
So he had me cold. He was like, it was Angie. Nah.
Listen,
No.
so I don't. If you want to sit over there with the family,
Right, I
because at
understand
one
that
time, especially if there's a kid involved,
Right.
Well, yeah,
you
that's
have that
different.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And also,
Right.
too, because you can also still have a relationship with that mother. Y'all can still be
Yes,
friends. Correct.
yes.
Correct.
So you sit there and
Because I was like that when Marcella passed away.
Right.
That was my birthday twin. So we still always hung out.
right,
So
and
yeah.
I don't see nothing the matter with that.
Absolutely.
But to your point, right? If you talking about I'm sitting with the ex, yeah, you in the casket with
Right.
that. Okay, so
That part.
Let's keep moving.
Same thing goes for you.
Yeah,
You and your nice skinned women.
Woo!
You invited me. I'm just saying.
So
Prepare the others.
So I guess it depends on the individual. How long should you grieve the person you said?
Which person?
That. Listen, we talking about the ex.
Yeah, I'm dying.
To me, if you're married to somebody else, if you want to grieve, don't let your spouse see it.
Gotcha.
If it's prolonged, because
Okay.
then you need to get treatment. But seriously, you need to get treatment for that, because it is a term that's called prolonged grief. It's facts. Don't shut it in front of your spouse, because your spouse is gonna look at you like, well, what about us?
Right.
Even if you have children by your ex, no, because then that means that you are still in love with that person. That's my
I
perspective.
agree with you.
You still in love with that person.
What about?
So, well, I guess my question to that, what you just said is, does it matter how long they've not been together?
No, if it's kids involved,
No, but what I'm saying is, if they're with you, but it's still early in your relationship,
in our
but
marriage,
they was with that person.
it doesn't matter. That's my husband, or that's the wife. No.
Okay, so you saying in a marriage? Okay.
In a marriage, yeah.
Yeah, because so if y'all married, y'all have had time before y'all even got married. So
Yeah.
I'm not really talking about that.
Okay.
I'm more so talking about, like, let's just say a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So they dating. Mm-hmm. So now y'all been dating for maybe 3 months, maybe even 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
But the person who you was dating for 5 years prior to this relationship that you in right now passed away.
That 3 months don't count. That's the earlier relationship.
Right.
That can go.
Yeah,
no.
that's what I'm asking.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about as far as like if Fred and I are married,
Right.
And one of our exes.
Are married. We is married.
I said
are.
Fred and I are married.
Are is currently.
We are married.
She didn't say was.
Yeah, I said are. So, and one of our exes passed, and we all falling out on the couch and drinking and crying and carrying on.
Yeah,
We gonna look at each other some type of
Yeah,
way.
because y'all 2 decades in the game. Somebody still feel that strongly.
That's
What
my
we doing?
point.
That's a bro.
What we
And
doing?
that's my point. Even if you
I
have
was looking at both of y'all like,
right, even if you had children by the ex, no, those feelings should not be there. No,
that's real.
that's a problem. I'm looking for like really, and vice versa to me. He gonna be like really, like no, like
Right.
unless it's Cool J passing away, then that's different, you know.
Well, then Selma Hayek for me. Then. What the heck? What the heck, Selma Hayek?
Yeah, but
I'm going down Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
What is she? What's Selma Hayek?
I don't even know what she is.
Well,
She's an actress. Anyway, but no,
it's Charlene.
Who's Charlene?
We just ain't random.
No. The South African chick.
Charlene Theron.
Yeah, I'm going to South Africa. Hey, oh, Charlene, I'm coming with me. Come, I'm on guard.
Yo, this boy. Shout out, man.
But no.
Seriously, all that prolong and I just
Now, let's say if you're single. What about you? What is if you just meet someone, Beacon, and you're single, and you meet this female, and you've been for 6 months, and she found out that her ex passed away. What's the time frame you give her before it's like, all right?
In that situation, I honestly don't know if I'm even in a position to give her a time frame. And here's why I say that.
Okay.
Because one, we don't have anything together. We don't have any kids together. We're not married together. We're probably not even living together. If in the time frame you said 3 months, right?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
That's not.
Yeah, we probably not even living together and all that.
That's not best.
So for me, honestly, if she's feeling that strongly about it, we probably need to take some space.
Okay.
Because she probably needs to deal with whatever she's dealing with. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't be willing to stay there, but I'm just saying if she felt like, or if I felt like she was doing too much and it was uncomfortable for me,
Yeah.
then I might have to step back and let her go through her grievance, still check on her, make sure she's good and all that, but maybe just a relationship ain't good right now. Because
Right.
we was rolling when everything was good, but now that happened,
Right.
now she's feeling emotions that she didn't even know she had.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to break up with somebody, but they still alive and doing their thing.
Right.
It's a whole nother thing for that person to no longer even be a possibility,
Right.
or to even exist.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying for me, I would try to support that person through it, but at a certain point, it would be like, listen, like I gotta do what's best for me at a certain point,
Right.
and so I probably would do what I can for a little bit, and then after that, if she's still feeling strongly. Like, look, you gotta do that over there, and I'm gonna
Right.
be over here. If you need me, I got you. But
Right.
we need to just separate until you figure that out.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my final perspective is if you're married and you find out that your ex has passed away, don't put on the show. Just say a prayer. Don't feel bad about going to the funeral, and keep it moving. Angie, any final perspective?
Yeah. No matter who passes away, but if let me take that back. Depending on who passes away, get grief counseling. Especially if it's your child, your parents, somebody that's close to you, whether it's a close friend, family member, and whomever it is. you gotta seek counseling. Because I can't say seek God first because everybody doesn't know God or don't believe in God. But you still need to go receive some type of counseling to get in front of it, just to learn how to navigate it, because a loss is a loss is a loss and you never get over it. But the part of the counseling is just to help you navigate through it and pivot from it. And just also know that, because people don't talk about that, is that grief can be very lonely. And that's my perspective.
All right, cool. And y'all both did great final perspectives. I think what I would touch on is the topic of how to grieve. So I would just encourage whoever's listening, whoever's dealt with grief, or maybe you're even dealing with grief right now, I would just encourage you to try to deal with your grief as much as possible in a healthy way. Because I know sometimes the natural thing is to want to drown yourself in drinking, or some people turn to drugs, or if it was a murder, some people feel like they got to go back and try to get retribution and all that kind of stuff. But I think what Angie cousin said, because I call her cousin, I think what she said was spot on. Like, if you really feel like your emotions are not intact, try to get counseling for it, or at least try to find somebody that you can talk to, who you can trust and who listens to you. And I think the only other thing that I would mention is, let's try to get more preparation around death. So as we talked about before, life insurance is so much cheaper when you're young and when you don't have health ailments. But when you wait until you get older and now you've got like this health history that's built up, or the insurance companies feel like you're old and something's going to happen to you, they raise the rates. So I would encourage people also to get into life insurance early, because there's also some financial benefits if you can get the right life insurance policies, which I'm not going to dive into now, but just do y'all research and find out. So that's my final perspective.
All right, so this is the coach.
This is Mrs. Rice, aka Cousin.
And I'm the Beacon. And this is the Point Blank Perspectives podcast.